the top agents in our office who you were referencing at the time, all I wanted to do was chase them. That's healthy to want to chase that versus, they've been in it so long and I'm not going to be able to do that because I'm new. You had a whole different mindset about that.
I would say in the beginning, you think like maybe it's me, maybe they just don't want to use me, and you kind of take it personal. But I just think about it when somebody says no, I think that I'm just getting closer to somebody who's going to tell me yes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Level Up Podcast with myself, Greg Harrelson. This is where I focus on taking you from agent to entrepreneur. As you know, I have a passion for developing agents. And on today's episode, I'm going to share another quick strategy on how you can increase your production. I'm going to be real, so you be ready. Let's level up.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back everyone to the Level Up Podcast. I'm your co-host, of course, Brendan Payne. And today I'm super excited. We have one of our agents with us, Miss Emilee Mosso. Thank you, Emilee, for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Emilee I'm going to let her introduce herself, but she is a rock star in the upstate offices that we have in South Carolina, and has a really, really good story in terms of where she started, where her production is. And then we're going to talk a little bit about where she's going from here. And I want you to kind of listen not only to what she's telling you, because I think she's going to share a lot of nuggets of just kind of her process and what she went through, some of the struggles that we all have probably been through at some point in our career, but listen from a point of where do you see yourself in Emilee's story? Because we all experience some of the same things, but maybe we experience them differently. And something you may hear in this episode could be that spark that then shows you that you can go do exactly what you want to do in this business. So without any more introduction, Emilee, thanks again for being on here. Maybe just give the audience that doesn't know you a brief introduction of kind of who you are, where you're at, and how your year's been so far.
Thank you, Brendan. I'm Emilee Mosso with Century 21 Blackwell here in the upstate, serving Boiling Springs, Spartanburg, Greenville areas, and then also Western North Carolina. And we are kind of seeing a little more production this year. I would say that it's definitely picking up from last year. We're seeing a healthier market and things are kind of looking positive.
That's great. That's great. Now, the upstate, for those of you who don't know, the upstate is like in the upper northwest corner of South Carolina, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you cover that metro market and even into Western North Carolina, which is really just right across the border. How long have you been in business or licensed?
I got licensed at the end of 2021. Okay. And I've been here since. Century 21 has been really good to me as far as training, mentoring, coaching. I just feel right at home from the day I started here. And that's one of the reasons I came to work here is there's a lot of experienced agents that have helped me, but also newer agents that we could kind of lead on each other. But ultimately, it feels like home here.
That's awesome. Awesome. So you got your license in 2021. 2022, is your first year in business. How was your first year, just like production wise?
The first year was good. I was happy with it. I didn't really know what to expect. People kind of tell you different things.
Yeah.
And I felt like I sold a few houses really quickly. And then I was kind of like, I ran out of clients. Like, I got to find more business. Mm-hmm. But I would say once you start going and you get a few, you kind of get the taste of it. And it just made me want more and more and more. Yeah. And that's what I've just worked to do. And obviously starting out, I was more so a buyer's agent, but then I just kind of realized like the potential of being a listing agent and being both. And I really enjoy working both sides of the business and any kind of side, investments, first-time home buyers, luxury listings, land, anything. I like to just be well-versed in whatever I can help somebody with.
You just like to be in the transaction.
Yes, I just like to be a part of it.
Love it. Love it. So you had your first year, did a few sales, which is great. And then you had, so your first full year would have been 2022. And then I know from when we talked prior to this, 2023 and 24, you were around, you got to the point fairly quickly around $3 to $4 million in production, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you have 23, 24. I know you 23 was probably like, okay, that's where you got that taste of like, all right, this can be good. 24, you said you were a little bit disappointed because you didn't see some growth. Part of that's just, it was a weird market, I'm kind of just figuring things out and you were working on your skills and stuff. So a couple of years around the 3 to 4 million in production, which is huge for a new licensee in that time period. Tell me about 2025. Where's your production year to date so far?
2025, I've been very thankful. It's been a really good year. We're in our 9th month, and I have, more things for the end of the month coming and the rest of the year lined up already. But just from January 1st to today, closed, I'm at almost 10 million.
That's incredible. 10 million. And just give people some kind of perspective on price point. Where are you at volume wise then with transaction wise with the 10 million in volume?
Almost 30 closed deals.
That's incredible. Great job. Yes. Very, very exciting. Okay. So let's get into a couple of the nuts and bolts of this. We talked a little bit about how when you're starting out, in my mind, a big portion of that first year is just figuring out what to say, having confidence in the conversations. Was there a moment that you can remember in your career where you actually started to believe, okay, I can actually do this at a high level?
Yes, I would say, like I mentioned previously, I worked with a lot of buyers when I first started. And I just remember, looking at Mitzi and Preston, and they would just like, I just listed this, I just listed that. And I just wanted to be them so bad. I wanted a listing. I wanted my name on the side. I would go to bed and pray for it. It'd be the first thing I'd think about. How am I going to get a listing? And I finally got one. And it was the weirdest listing ever. The people started building it like 30 years ago. They never finished building it. It was in a bad area. It had termites. And I was so excited to list it. And I was like, I was ready to take anything at that point. And I really just cared for the people who were the sellers. I wanted to work hard for them. And I knew they needed to get the proceeds from it to be able to move on. So I was thinking, I got to get creative to sell this thing because it's pretty unique. It had funky wallpaper, all the things. And it went under contract pretty quickly. And coming out of that closing attorney's office, I just said to myself, if I can sell that quickly, I can sell anything. So I feel like that was the point for me where I was like, I just need a good listing, and it's just a matter of time what I can do and to grow from this.
That's so cool and I think that happens a lot. Like there was nothing that the day before you had that listing, there was nothing that all of a sudden overnight you just developed and then went and got that listing. Like it was nothing changed in you. You had all the skills beforehand, but
yes,
all of us in the beginning, it's like, we just need that win. And I love that when you say that's all I could think of. And I prayed about, let me get that first one. And the other part is, I was the same way when the top agents in our office who you were referencing at the time, all I wanted to do was chase them. That was all. Yes. That was my whole goal, is I want to chase them. So that motivation's huge. And I think it's a good thing to understand that that's healthy to want to chase that versus, they've been in it so long and I'm not going to be able to do that because I'm new. You had a whole different mindset about that.
And we would have, when I first started, we would have sales meetings, and Peggy would lead our meetings, and we would go through a list of everybody's listings. And, I sat there the first few months and didn't have one. I was brand new. People didn't even know who I was really. And I just would hear their listings. And I was just like, I want to get up and talk about mine one day. And I finally did, about the termites, that house. Right. I was just so happy to get to that point.
Very cool. Very cool. So the sales, as you know, always involves, some rejection. There's rejection of, no, the timing's not right, or I'm going to hire somebody else. And I'm sure you've dealt with that time and time again the last couple of years. How has your perspective on rejection kind of changed over time?
I would say in the beginning, you think like maybe it's me, maybe they just don't want to use me, and you kind of take it personal. But I just think about it when somebody says no, I think that I'm just getting closer to somebody who's going to tell me yes. And whenever I started, I'll probably reference Peggy a lot during this meeting, but she always told me, she would say, it's the yeses that pay. She said, so as soon as somebody tells you no, call somebody else, go give your card to someone else because you're just that much closer to getting a yes. And I just don't take it personal if somebody tells me no. I try to spin it and get a yes from them, and maybe it's a no now, but the fortune's definitely in the follow up. So I just continue to reach out and tell them I'll do the best job I can, and at the end of the day, that's all you can really offer.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And I believe that, you mentioned every one of the no's gets you closer to a yes. I think there's a misconception in this industry that when you start, whatever you have as a lead, or maybe it's your centers of influence, or maybe it's coming from a different source, but we feel like we're going to bat 1,000 in this industry. And the reality is just like, even with the rejection that we feel sometimes as us, the reality is like sometimes people just aren't ready. And so you
Yeah.
have to talk to a lot of people that are going to be a no in order to get to the ones that are going to be a yes. But if you approach it from like, I know that's part of the game, then it's a lot less painful than going, oh man, I must have messed something up because they should have been a yes and I did something wrong. Like, no, just start out understanding you're going to have to talk to a lot of people that are going to be no before you get
Yeah,
those yeses.
absolutely. And it's just not letting myself get, upset or down that they said no. And, I just tell them, here's my resume, here's what I'll do for you. And, you give it a good shot. And if they don't want to work with you, you'll find someone else who will.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I know that some people that are going to be listening to this are going to be like, all right, this next question, it doesn't even make sense to me because you fairly quickly got to 3 to 4 million in production. But in this business, there's always ups and downs. And you said you experienced a little frustration when you didn't grow your business in 24. Can you share a time where you felt stuck or maybe frustrated in the business? And then what helped you get past that?
I would say that there's definitely been times where I've felt like, why isn't this listing selling? Or, I really felt like those people are going to ask me to list it and they went with someone else. And,
Mhm.
Maybe I've sold more homes around that one. And I felt like I really was a strong contender and they didn't go with me. And I felt really frustrated. But what I have to remind myself is, and what helps me get through those times is why I started. I fell in love with real estate when I was 10 years old. My dad works for the railroad. He's retired now. And we grew up moving for his job. So when I was about 10, I discovered Zillow on like my mom's iPad. I didn't have a phone at the time. So I was emailing agents pretending to be my parents. Hey, can we see this property, after baseball practice, and setting up the appointments for them. So I just remember personally, as being part of a family that was moving, how important it was to work with a good realtor that knew the area
Mhm.
and, knew the ins and the outs and the good neighborhoods and all those things. And I just want to be that agent to people and, just show them the importance of using a realtor and all the needed things. And I just think the days I'm frustrated, like I said, another step closer to finding somebody that really wants help and needs help, and I'm going to find them and help them.
That I've not heard that story. That is awesome.
Oh, thank you.
That is great. I have to imagine that you probably share that with some of your clients.
Yes,
Yeah.
they get a kick out of it.
Yeah. Well, there's not that many people that I'm running across more in probably your generation, much younger than me, that have actually started with the idea very young of, yeah, I'm going to get into this business because there's so much exposure, I think, right now with social media and stuff of what's possible. But you
Yeah.
didn't find like 10, 15, 20 years ago, you didn't find a lot of people that were, oh yeah, I knew I was going to be a real estate agent. This was like second, third career for a lot of people. So it's really cool that
Yeah.
at 10 you were like an ISA setting appointments.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Um,
Uh, Go ahead.
I was just you said the other part of that is I grew up watching Modern Family. I don't know if you've watched it, but I
Oh yeah.
love Bill Dunphy's, National Association of Realtors ads in there, and it definitely added to why I was so interested in the business.
That's great. That's great. Um, can you share maybe something that through your first 4 years that you were uncomfortable with in the beginning, and now it's really become part of your success?
I would say a couple of things to that. In the beginning, I was definitely excited to list, but I was uncomfortable just because it was something I hadn't done before.
Hmm.
And, I love working with all sides, like I've said, buyers and sellers. But I went into Peggy's office again with Miss Peggy the one day, and I was telling her that some of these buyers were just beating me up. I didn't feel like they were gonna maybe end up buying anything. And I had been here, there, and everywhere showing them houses. And she just sat me down and she said, Darling, if you're gonna make it in this company, in this business, if you're gonna last, you need to start listing. So I've just had that in the back of my mind the whole time. So I started chasing the listings more. And that's something that has really paid off for me because I love to list houses. I love to market them. And I would say that was something that wasn't, I was uncomfortable with it just because it was so unfamiliar.
Hmm.
Um, but now it's definitely something that I'm just so thankful for and is a big part of my business.
Man, that is a nugget from Miss Peggy Blackwell, and I'm
Yeah.
not surprised with her time in the industry and her experience. It's that doesn't surprise me at all, and it's true. And I think I don't know if we've ever talked about this or you've heard us talk about this, but it's always interesting when agents will tend to gravitate early to working with buyers. And
Mhm.
whether, some of it's personality, some of it's just like they really enjoy the showing process. But I feel like people sometimes have this sense of, well, like listings, I don't like listings and I know I should list to last, but there's this fear about listings. And what we've figured out, or at least my hallucination is that when you work with buyers and there's rejection involved, usually the rejection is about the property. It's not, I don't like that house, or these rates, or I want to be able to afford a little more, so I'm going to wait. All that rejection when something doesn't happen is about the property. And when you're listing properties, the rejection is about the agent. They're not choosing the agent. And you mentioned that a little bit ago, where you get frustrated when you didn't get a listing because that's actually the rejection of the seller saying, no, it wasn't anything wrong with you. I just chose somebody else. And I think that
Mhm.
fear is what holds so many people back in taking that step to say, no, I can go out and list homes. I can go
Mhm.
out and market homes. And so I love that you were able to break through that and say, no, I'm going to add this pillar to my business. And I love every part of it. Happy to work with buyers, but I know that I've got
Yes.
to have this foundation as well.
Absolutely. And that's like I said, I've gotten help from a lot of mentors in the company, like I talk about Miss Peggy often, but many others, agents here. And they've kind of shared the same thing with me. Listings is a great foundation to help build.
Absolutely. Okay. So I know this is the question that you're never supposed to ask anybody, but it's our podcast, so I'm going to ask, and I know you're cool with it. How old are you?
I'm 23.
23. Okay. So the
Yes.
reason I want to know that ahead of time is because I want to know for somebody who's doing $10 million in volume and going up from there, no doubt going up from there, how has your identity as a business person, because you are a business person now, you own a business that is generating a good amount of income, having a huge impact on families that are in your area. How has your identity as that business person evolved since your first year?
I would say since my first year, also a side note to that, I am young and I started, when I was even younger, and I probably look even younger than my age is. So that was definitely a big curve there. And people, whenever I started, they would say, you look like you're 12 or something like that. And, other people in the office, managers and stuff, they would say, just like basically hit them back in the teeth with something and say, but I'm a great agent or I work really hard. So I would say that definitely helped me shift. And then they're like, oh, okay. Like, they like, not that they have the power or anything, but you try to just hit them back with a little bit like, but I'll work hard for you,
That's
something
right.
like that. But whenever I started, I was always in anybody who was here's office. What are you doing? Can you help me? I need help with this. Always asking questions. That's the great part about working here. And I would say I still ask a lot of questions like we all do, but now it's shifted to where a lot of the new people come to me and are asking questions like, can I shadow you? Or can you help me with this? And I'm honored to do it because I love how it's come full circle and I love to pay it back because I certainly got a lot of help from everyone. But I would say that's been a big shift. Like, I'm so thankful, but it's almost like, how did we get here so quick, and it's just changed in that way.
Yeah, that's cool. So you kind of, what I'm hearing you say is you kind of went from being the person that was getting all the coaching because you were putting yourself in a position to ask questions, which I think is huge. And now you've kind of evolved and now you're actually the coach in some situations of new people, new agents that are coming into the office.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And what you just mentioned there, that which everybody, I believe, it doesn't matter if you're in an office like Emilee is in a company like we're in, you have the ability to put yourself in that proximity of people who can help you. But if Emilee just would have walked in the office and sat down and never engaged with anybody, listen, everybody's busy. And she wouldn't have gotten out of those agents the experience and the expertise and the questions and that knowledge. She took it upon herself to say, I've got proximity to people who know more than I do. And I'm going to
Mhm.
use that. I'm going to leverage that to get engaged and learn from that. And I can tell you, you're on the flip side of it. The fact that you said, I'm happy to do that. We all are. Everybody started from zero in this business.
Yes.
And when you've grown up around people that have shown you the way, then most of the time, like you're willing at a high level to contribute to others because you want to see the same for them.
Absolutely. It's just a great place to work as far as the support with each other. It's really nice.
Awesome. When it comes to your actual like day-to-day business and things that have kind of brought you the best return in building your business, what's one thing that you're doing currently now that you wish you maybe would have started a little bit sooner?
Um, that's kind of a tough one, but I would say probably what I had gone back to is chasing the listings, whether it's calling to get the listings, the mailers, all those little things that I do to get listings that I feel like in the beginning I was happy to just work with the buyers. So I feel like
Mm.
just making a step every day. And I feel like I have more detailed list now of what did I accomplish today? How many, income producing activities did you make today? Just things like that where I feel like I'm a little bit more organized in that aspect. And I feel like maybe in the beginning that would have helped me a little bit more, but it's all about kind of finding your rhythm. And
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And some of it's just, it takes time. Like it's not necessarily anything that
yes.
you chose not to do. You just didn't know what you didn't know at the time.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. This has been fantastic. I've got one final question for you. So for somebody that's out there, any agent that might be listening to this conversation now or in 5 years from now, what do you think is something that they could start doing today that would move the needle for them in their business in the next, say, 30 to 60 days? Just that one thing they should start doing.
The one thing that has really helped me, which we've kind of touched on a little bit too, is showing up for yourself, showing up to the office. There's a lot of people that work from home, and I'm not saying anything negative about it, but personally, when I get up, accomplish something in the morning, and I'm in my dress clothes, and I come into the office and I sit down and I start calling people, I just feel that I accomplish more by coming in and showing up and being consistent.
I couldn't have and I didn't ask you this beforehand. I couldn't have chose a better answer for you to give. Thank you. And there are
Oh,
brokers and
thanks.
owners all around the country that are
Yeah.
thanking you for that message, because not only because we know it makes a difference when post COVID, we all kind of were given permission that we could do the same things and just do them from home. And for the small percentage of people that are able to do that, God bless. And that's great. But
Yeah.
the rest of us, there's so much value in treating every day like a clock in, clock out mentality where you show up and you do those income generating activities that you mentioned. You're dressed for the part, you're ready to go. And then look, you have opportunities versus, trying to pull that off and you're on that island alone. So boy, that's impactful. And I agree wholeheartedly. If somebody started doing that, they'd see an increase.
I will say that just for being in the office, I've put deals together. I've sold properties. Like people have said, I have this coming on the market, or I have a buyer for you. And that's really helped for sure. And the other thing being everybody's offices are different, but starting at Century 21, they gave me a cubicle to work out of. And I'm a big goal setter, and I loved working in the cubicle. I thought it was awesome because I got to talk to other people who were also in the cubicle. But then I'd go to the bathroom and I'd see the people that had the big, nice private office with their name on the door. And I was just like, this cubicle is great and all, but I have got to be one of them one day. So I kept going to Peggy and saying, how many more units, how many more units? And she would, it was like she was dangling a carrot in front of me or
What?
something. And she would say, 10 more, 10 more. Every time I needed 10 more. And then finally I did. And so now I'm in my private office right now. But
Yeah.
it just, when you set something that you want to accomplish by a date, or, that you just have your eyes set on and just staying with it and showing up for yourself and for your business is the best advice I could give.
That's outstanding. That's outstanding. And now you got the office and the name card.
Yes. That I look at every day.
Yeah, I would too. Well, again, great information, Emilee. And thank you for being so open. I learned things about you that I didn't know. So I appreciate you being so open and transparent with everything. And for those of you that are listening, I would ask you to think through some of the themes that came out in this and that she shared. And what I heard was she spent time building confidence. Part of that is her as a person. And I think that's one of the things that she just brings to the table. She got her license in, when people were partying every night in her age group. She got her license and had a direction she wanted to go. But then look at what she did when she came in. She put herself in surroundings where she was going to learn. She asked questions. She was willing to to say, I don't know this, but I want to. And now she's evolved into somebody where people come to her for that. She grew confidence. She had challenges like every one of us, but she was laser focused on these aren't stopping me. I'm going to push through them. And then I think the last thing is you can tell she's got a great mindset. She's going out there for her people, and she's going out there for her dreams, but also that mindset's rooted, and she knows she's being service to her community. So all great things. One last time, thank you, Emilee. And if somebody wants to touch base with you and just get an idea or bounce something off of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you? I probably wouldn't say cell phone, but maybe are you on social media?
Yes, I'm on Facebook as Emilee Mosso, your Carolina closer, and Instagram as Emilee Mosso Realtor. So if I could ever help anyone, please reach out. And thank you so much, Brendan, for having me. It's an honor to be here to talk with you.
I've enjoyed it very much. So until next episode, thanks for watching, and we will see you again soon.